For more now on the papal visit, we're joined by Lorraine Seymour, a residential school survivor from Treaty 3 who was in Maskwacis this week. Also joining us is Russ Diabo, a policy analyst and former candidate for national chief of the AFN, and Rachel Ann Snow, a lawyer, analyst, and advocate based in Morley, Alberta. Thank you all so much for being with us. Lorraine, let's start with you. You traveled to Maskwacis to attend the papal visit there. Can you tell us how your experience was?
Well, first of all, wasa megdajnikas mekwanen don tam chikmasin donji mi gwechmagi bijaya nisdatum. So I'm from Treaty 3. I went to residential school in St. Mary's, and I traveled. I flew there, but a lot of my comrades or my fellow survivors took the bus. So there was 16 of them that took the bus. It was a long drive. But we had a good experience being together. That's the thing for me. The healing of being with the people I went to residential school with was really, really healing for me. Hearing my brother tell me he loved me for the first time in my life, because we had to be separated in school, right? And our relationship's been fragmented for our entire life. And for me, that's the thing, is to heal those relationships. Having fun with my fellow students on the bus going to go see the Pope was really, for me, it was we were giggling because it changed the whole memory of being on the bus when we were little kids together, because that was a really bad memory, and we shifted that memory into a positive one where we're excited and happy to be given space for our voice to be centered, which is why I felt compelled to come on here, because I feel like our voices are being kind of put aside and displaced, and I wanted to speak to that. We need to be centered. Our experiences need to be centered. Our healing experience need to be centered. Our political takes on whether the Pope and the feathers and the headdress doctrine of discovery should come after us, speaking our minds. That is why I'm here, miigwech.
Rachel, you've been one of the people of many people who have been critical of the visit, especially that gifting of the headdress to the Pope by Wilton Littlechild. Why did that not sit well with you?
Ambawastich, Tagunchawa ni Tachastabi. Good afternoon to all my relatives and relations. One of the things I think that we need to remember as First Nation Indigenous people, that this cry or this the outcome of the Pope's visit, one of the things that it was to showcase or to bring the Pope to apologize and to finally take accountability for all of the outstanding intergenerational harms, the things that we still would deal with in on reserve or in our communities. We have a lot of we still have a lot of trauma that we're dealing with our people. There were so many people on social media who mentioned this. I really like the way Isaac Murdoch put it. He was saying that we lost our connection to the land, and I agree. I think that is paramount to what happened to us in the residential school experience. My late dad was in the residential school. My mom was an American Indian, and my dad is Iahe Nakota. We are one of the Cheti Shagoi. We are one of the 7 council fires. We are the people who hold the Wiyaga Tishnaga or Wiyaga Tashna. That is the headdress. We are the ones who gifted that to other Plains people. I noticed in some of the mainstream media, when they're doing presentations or when they're explaining this, they are not all of the tribes who were gifted this are not saying where the original place was that the headdress came from. And I think that's again, we talk about the responsibilities and we talk about what that means as an honor amongst our people, and especially because it's a sacred item. So I think that when you are giving that to a person ahead of the head of a Wasiju or white man institution, you have to exercise some caution. It can't be a whimsical, at the last moment, not a consensus-driven act. It has to be done with deliberation, with care, and especially with acknowledgement from our people. Because when that was elevated to something that happened on a world stage, it looked like it represented all First Nation people. And that I took severe issue with, because not all our people were in favor of the Pope coming. We're not in favor of asking for an apology, and we're not in favor of sort of kowtowing to the Roman Catholic Church. I think it could have been done with our spirituality showcased, to show that we still have our ways, despite the Roman Catholic Church. So I think that you're going to find that among the spectrum of survivors and the children of survivors, the way we were taught, the way we were brought up, the way we understand our clan or our Woyate, our people, the way we understand our responsibilities, we're going to step up on that note, and we'll continue to do that because that's who we are as a people. My people are the Iahe Nakota people in Minisni, by the mountains here in southern Alberta, and that's who will remain.
Russ, the Pope's about 2/3 of the way through this papal visit or so far. What's your take on the visit so far?
Well, you know, my grandmother went to residential school in Ottawa with the Grey Nuns, and some of my father's siblings also went to residential school, and it affected, you know, our family relationships because they all struggled with alcohol from their experiences at residential school. And that, of course, affected me growing up. So I look at the role of the Catholic Church in that context because, you know, of course, Ganawage was one of the places where the Jesuits came, you know, to do the, conversion into Catholicism. They've been there right from the contact when the Europeans first came to what's now Canada. The Catholic Church was there and has been involved long before the residential schools. So I look at it in that context. And I looked at the event in Muscatcheese. I recognized that the federal government put in, I think, $35 million to make sure everybody was funded. The survivors were funded to go there to that organized event. And I recognized that the Pope's statement was accepted as an apology by many of the survivors. But I see it, you know, as only the first action to start addressing the justice that needs to be done. And 2/3 into his trip, he hasn't really addressed the main issues. Although in Quebec City last night, he did start to talk about the church organizations. So he went beyond certain Christians. And he started to acknowledge the role of the church, at least local church institutions. But he didn't address the rampant sexual abuse or physical abuse, or in fact that thousands of children never even made it home from those residential schools. He didn't address, you know, the need to return the material culture that were taken under questionable means. He didn't address opening up the archives, you know, to start addressing, you know, the needs to start identifying, you know, the children that were being taken in those residential schools. That needs to be done. There needs to be a process for that. He didn't give direction that the church is going to do that. You know, the Vatican and the Canadian Council of Catholic Bishops. And, you know, most importantly, he didn't address the doctrine of discovery. Or really, it's the doctrine of domination, because that's what the papal bulls were. It was to say that you know, Christian countries could go and dominate, you know, non-Christian peoples and take their lands. That's really what the papal bulls were. It wasn't just about land theft, but it was about subjugation of indigenous peoples, you know, under the Catholic Church and later their governments, right? The Christian countries. In Canada, the French and the English. So I see his visit as triggering. It triggered me. I'm still triggered by it all, you know, because he's not taking responsibility, and he's not, you know, setting out a process for, you know, giving justice. We'll see what he does in Qualiut. I understand he's meeting with different Indigenous groups tonight. Maybe something will come out of that. I don't know, but I'm not hopeful. But we'll see. I'm certainly not happy with his visit. I accept that the survivors have accepted his statement in Muscat Chiefs and in Quebec City as an apology, but it's not justice, and I think that's where we need to go. And
yeah, as you mentioned there, Russ, we know the Wellness Center saying they've been overwhelmed with calls during this visit. Great to speak with you all. I wish we could keep going, but the people in my ear are not going to give us much more time. So Lorraine, Russ, Rachel, appreciate you all taking some time here for us.
All right.
Yeah.
Miigwech.